All right, welcome back to another episode of the EROS Podcast, where we talk about how to build a digital agency the right way. Today, I'm going to do something more tactical, more practical. If you're tuning in and listening, it'll still be a great episode, but I highly recommend going over to our YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. And there's going to be visuals along with this. I'm going to be drawing some stuff out on a board. And today I want to cover if I had to start over, what I would do to grow my business to a multi-six-figure, seven-figure agency, and the different processes and steps, the different things that are included, required, necessary in order to get there, and how I would do it very fast and effectively. This seems to be a very popular question, and it was a popular question for myself whenever I was starting out. Hey, you have some level of success. If you had to start over, what would you do? Basically, if you were me, what would you be working on? What would you be doing? What would be important to focus on in order to have growth and to do so quickly and efficiently? So again, that's what we're going to be covering. If you stay with me to the end, I'm going to give you a very great framework on how I would do it. I feel like my perspective is valuable from the sense that I've built an agency all the way up to above $120,000 a month. In fact, I built two above that threshold, and I did it the wrong way. And now I destroyed that agency. I brought it all the way down to around 20, 30 grand a month and then rebuilt it back. But I've done it what I consider the right way. Now, the two differences ahead of time, so you understand what my objective is here, is the first way led to a lot of chaos. It about burned me out, and frankly, it about killed me. If you're not familiar with my story, I started my company about 9 years ago. I left a high paid career with Walmart. I was a senior systems engineer for their mainframe, basically a fancy title for I babysat developers, had a lot of technical skills, and left that high paying job to start this career. And it took me a long time to get to where I wanted to go. And about 2.5, 3 years ago is when I hit this burnout point. We reached that pinnacle of $120,000 a month, and I was working with clients that I didn't like. I was staying up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I had team members that were causing chaos and fire. I didn't have the right systems and processes in place to handle the types of projects we were taking on. It got me down to this point where I was disconnected from my wife. I wasn't giving my kid any attention. I'd let my physical health go because I was spending so much time in the business just trying to keep it running. Outward, everybody was looking in and going, wow, that's amazing. You have this achievement. You built a seven-figure company. On the inside, I was dying, and I started abusing alcohol to the point that I was drinking over a fifth of vodka every single night. And so the reason I started this podcast is I think there's a lot of shit information out there, and I'm trying to save people from going down the path that I did, to give them better information, access to more information in a way that will help them grow and scale. So if you're here with me and you're interested in how you can grow your company and do it, again, what I would classify as the right way, whereas now, like, I have a great relationship with my wife. I am about 10% body fat. I'm stronger, leaner, meaner than I've ever been. I have a great relationship with my kid. I have a team that's freaking amazing. They show up every day. They do what is necessary. I don't have to micromanage them. I don't have to look over the shoulder. I don't have to worry about them. They show up on fire, on point, on mission to go get the results for our customers. We work with customers that I love working with. They're true good partners. They thank us for letting them pay us money every single month, and they ask what else they can buy from us. That's my philosophy on how sales should be. They're not people like, I can't wait until I get to the end of my contract. How do I get out of this stuff? So that's what we're aiming to build. So again, I've already spent 4 minutes here on the intro, but if you stick with me, we're going to break down frameworks. I'll bring up the whiteboard here, and we're going to noodle out how I would rebuild if you took everything away from me today and do so the correct way. So without further ado, let me bring up the whiteboard and we'll get started. I'm going to bring up board starting over. And I've built myself a set of notes so we can stay on track and make sure that this is as productive as possible. All right, so I'm going to grab my pen and we'll get rolling here. So we're starting over. Make sure this is working. I got the wrong stylus here. We're starting over. And here's the rules. I'm starting over from zero. I have nothing in a business bank account. May have personal assets. So I want to be clear. Like, I may have a few $1,000 tied to my name, but objectively, we're going to try to do this in a way that requires little to no money, and we're going to try to do it as quickly as possible. So we're starting down here. Up here is our 7-figure agency. So you got this gap here, and through here is everything that we need. And there's going to be phases, right? And there's about 4 distinct phases that I want to talk through, right? You've got freelance, you've got operator, you've got, I'm just going to shorthand it, but architect mode, and then you've got owner mode, right? So depending on where you're at, this is going to adjust what we're focusing on, because if I'm starting at ground zero, I'm freelance. I'm going to be doing absolutely everything. If we're looking at operator, it's you plus some contracted work. This may originally be VAs. Highly recommend, if you can, using people that are in the same country that you are, ideally same time zone, even if they're same city. Digital teams are really hard to manage, and the more scattered they are, the harder it is to bring group culture. So we'll go over some of that. Architect mode is you've built the systems plus the team, and you're kind of in the mix, but overall that you've got a system and a team that's process and it's process driven. And so you're doing less of the work. And then you've got owner mode where you just lead the people and you have the systems and the team and the people in place to just execute. Arguably, as it stands where I am, I'm, for transparency's sake, between architect and owner, right? And the reason I say that is I still, partly because I like and enjoy it, but also partly because I want to nail this part just perfectly. I still do a lot of the sales as far as the practical delivery of the products that we offer, which our company does: SEO, CRO, website design, Google paid ads, YouTube ads, basically anything inside of search ecosystem. And now it's also incorporating ranking inside of ChatGPT and Perplexity, stuff like that. But you have these 4 different places, and it's important to understand what point you're at. Freelancer, this is typically your 0 to like 10K a month. And this is important to know too, like when is it applicable to start hiring people, right? For operator, this is your K to probably K mode. There's enough meat on the bone that you could be hiring some people to do some things for you. You got to get some leverage back. You're probably going to need some tools. We're going to go over some of that as well. Knowing what those are is super important. For architect, shoot, got me out of the board. Fun fact, I'm a lefty. And so sometimes this is a little bit more difficult. I keep hitting the back button with the top part of my hand here. All right. So architect is going to be, lost pen mode, lost my color, is going to be 20, probably like 50K plus. Owner is 50K and up. This is where you're in the model of multiple 7 figures, right? You've got maybe even multiple teams running different departments, etc. So there's your breakdown on that. Let's zoom out of this. We're going to redraw the model. And something else I think is important. Every one of these videos that you consume, everybody thinks in terms of, I'm right here, over here's the money, and there's this nice straight path that you're going to follow. In reality, you're here, the money's over here, and it looks like this. And we're aiming to straighten the through line here as much as possible. Let's change colors here. Straighten the through line. Let's get a broader stroke here too. Straighten the through line so that you can shorten, condense that. That's the purpose of you watching videos like this or consuming content like this is, all right, how do I shortcut my way there? And I intentionally am going to talk through some things that at first you may be like, oh, this is boring. I don't want to hear about this. But this is the hard truth and the things that you're going to have to embrace to truly see success in this. So before we move on, now we kind of understand, what our different phases are that we're going to be moving through. We have to determine some things. And these are going to determine how long this takes you to achieve the desired result. Number 1 is going to be, let's change colors again. Let's go to white. Number 1, skill. What are your skill sets? Okay, this left-handed situation is getting annoying. I'm also realizing you're not seeing everything that I'm showing. So let me make sure that I adjust up here on this screen. So this is what I was talking about, straight line versus windy path and wanting to find the through line. And we moved over here to skill. You should be able to see those. I forget that the board doesn't move up here on the screen that I'm sharing versus the one I have down here on the tablet we're working on. So number 1 is skill. I'm going to drag this down here so my hand is less likely to tap that back button up there. Number 2, where's pen again? Number 2 is knowledge. These are different. You have natural skill sets. These can be speaking, the ability to do sales, the ability to build systems, natural innate ability and skill sets. And then you have knowledge, like things you're acquiring. You're watching this video. I'm going to be transferring knowledge to you today. Then you have number 3, confidence. And then number 4 is ability to sell. Now, those sound like separate, but I actually intend in this particular context for them to be both, because one of the biggest reasons that I left my career with Walmart was I was actually running from leadership. I didn't want to take on my next iterative progression inside of that company would have led to additional money. I had great benefits, etc. But I was running from, I didn't want to lead people. This led me to this belief that I was going to jump in, run a company, that it was just me, and I was going to still be able to make millions of dollars. And yet, at the end of the day, I want to summarize for you that there's not one thing that still exists today that's real big, well recognized, that was built by just one person. There'd be arguments of like, oh, you've got Michelangelo built the sculpture of David and blah, 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 blah. There's examples of things people did, individuals did, but there were still people behind them supporting them that led to that being something so great and so big. Realistically, the biggest skill set that I want you to understand you're going to need to make this super successful is you need to learn how to inspire and lead people. Without that skill set, you're going to hit roadblocks and you're going to bump up against a ceiling that you're not going to be able to break through until you determine, hey, I can do this. But let's talk about this one here. I think this one's super important. Confidence. The difference in me and you at the end of this video, you will understand what skills you need to possess, but you may not possess them. You will need knowledge and you may have all the knowledge you need. In fact, this is the biggest pitfall. That's supposed to say pit, but it doesn't say it very well. So let's redraw it. Pit. The biggest pitfall is that you will spend all of your time. This was my biggest pitfall because I'm a chronic learner. I love learning things. I've got so much stored information on how to do things that I'm never going to use in my life. That's a problem. If you know these things, but you don't go execute them, you're not going to get anywhere. And I know you inherently know that. I know this is nothing new under the sun, but I just want to reinforce this is the biggest pit, and you will circle round and round and round and round and round and round and round until you decide, I know that I need to go get the skill sets. And the only way that I'm going to go get the confidence is by executing. And I understand that I have to become a leader. If you can get to that point, you can charge what you want to who you want and run a team that will execute the way mine does. But again, back to the gap. You've got me and you, and we have our skill, knowledge, confidence, and leadership. I've got the skills, the knowledge, the confidence, and leadership because I've already done it. You can't take that away from me. You can't take the skill of me being able to sell. You can't take the skill away from me for being able to get on camera and speak into it with confidence in order to create ads. You can't take away my skill set of the ability to persuade people, to lead people. Can't take my leadership ability away. You can't take my confidence that my product and service work. I love this example. Let's say you watch a ton of YouTube videos on jujitsu. When you go get in a fight, if you've never actually got on the mat and rolled, you're going to get your ass handed to you because you need the reps. The reps give you confidence and the instinctive ability to listen to your instincts and just move without thought, right? If you get in a headlock and someone's choking you out, there's a right way and a wrong way to handle that. There's a right way to move. There's a right way to get them to release the choke, etc. And if you have not trained yourself to have that correct movement pattern to work your way out, maybe you need to get your shoulders to the mat. That's not the instinctive place you want to go. You tend to want to roll, and that can actually make the choke tighter. And until you train that out of yourself, your reaction to a stressful, pressurized situation of being choked is going to lead to you getting tapped many times. And it's the same thing here inside of your business. If you don't learn to control that feeling of anxiety or pressure and know the right action steps to take, you're going to be spending money on some ads to get some new customers, and you're going to tap out before you get to the desired outcome. You're going to freak out and you're going to turn them off before they start working because you don't know how long it's going to take for them to finally hit and arrive and start delivering you leads. When the leads start coming in, you're not sure, you get the first couple and they're terrible, great, and you turn the ads off. You don't keep it running long enough to whatever. You get the point. If you don't know what the outcome is, it makes it more difficult. This is why I'll shamelessly plug this real quick, is I think mentorship is so valuable and important because you can take someone who not only has the skill, knowledge, confidence, and leadership, they've been there before. They know what it looks like. They know what it looks like to hire that first person. They know what they should pay them. They know what skill sets they should have. They know what a good system is versus a bad system and all the little pitfalls that can come with that. They know what softwares and tools you need, etc. They've been there before. They've seen success. Because they've seen success, they can lead you to it. You have never seen the other side of a seven-figure company. Otherwise, you wouldn't watch this far in the video. So having someone like me who's willing to get on a one-on-one call with you, figure out where you're at, what the bottlenecks are, what skill sets you need to level up on, what your biggest constraint in your business is and where you need to focus. Going back over here to our straight path and our windy path. This is a myth. That's not going to happen. But as you're starting to wander off course, the mentor bumps you and puts you back in the right direction. And as you start wandering off course, the mentor bumps you. So take advantage of mine or someone else's ability to sit on the phone with you and lead you and guide you so that you're not in this chaotic, wondery path. As you start to wonder, they point you back in the right direction. And you can borrow their certainty and confidence to get where you want to go. So no matter what I show you here today, I can give you knowledge, hands down. You may have some of the skills and you can go work on the skills, but the confidence to execute on them is going to be different. Here's another thing that I have an advantage over you on. Because I know what products work, what systems work, who and what I would hire, etc. I would probably go, as I get my first $10,000, the first thing I'm going to go do is go get a loan. I'm going to get a high interest rate loan that I can pay back very quickly, but I'm going to leverage that so that I have money in the bank account. I have a float to go hire that first person to get leverage quicker. If you were to go take this same loan, you would be struggling because you wouldn't necessarily make the right hire. You wouldn't buy the right software at the right time to get where you want to go. And so I can leverage that. This propels me faster. If you're working with someone that knows this, they can encourage you, they can walk you through so that you're not hitting those pitfalls. You can make the right hire with that leverage, and this gives you speed. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get back to key critical points. Talk about skill set here for a second. All these, the Savage 6. We got sales and seduction. These are the 6 skill sets you need to work on. And if you have one of these wired, great. If you've got 4 of these wired, great. Wherever you're deficient right now, these are the things you need to focus on. And you may not like them. I didn't want to do leadership. I didn't want to learn sales. And yet they were a critical component for me to be able to progress. That's why it took me way too long to get where I was going, why I took such a windy path. And again, I'm trying to help you avoid this. Sales and seduction. The ability to clearly articulate what you have to say. Look, for my guys out here trying to start an SEO agency, a lot of you guys are nerds. You don't like speaking to people. You don't like sales. You don't like seducing people to buy things. These are going to be things you have to learn. And this applies to any business that you're starting. You can go start any business with these 6 skills and be a fucking monster at them. All right. Then we have teaching and training. On a surface level, I want you to understand that some of these feel like there's overlap, and there is, but they're not the same thing. The ability to teach your team things, to teach your client things, is going to be super important to your ability to have retention and your team's ability to execute. Training is different because once I've taught you the information, training is the ability to look at where they're at as they're doing the repetitions of this thing and make adjustments. This plays into coaching, do that both, and consulting. So sales and seduction, speaking, teaching, training, coaching, consulting. With these 6 skills, these are the core skill sets that build up the ability to be a great leader, to be a persuasive person who can sell. And I'm not just talking about sales in order to sell your product, selling your team on your mission, your ideals, your culture of what you want inside of your company is important. Your ability to consult for your clients and coach them on where they are deficient in operation side of their business. This is what raises the value of what you're doing. Ultimately, if we look at the digital marketing model, you've got different levels. So in order to command the biggest price, whenever I first started doing SEO, I was charging $500. That was it, $500 per client. That doesn't leave a lot after we got to do execution of everything, right? And then as we went on, I started to charge like $750 to $1,000. Now our average ticket with our client is somewhere between $2,500 and $4,500 a month. The value difference here is this is button pushing, right? Anybody can go on Fiverr and find someone that'll build some backlinks, that'll run a PPC campaign, etc. They'll push the buttons, but there's no strategy. As you start to add strategy, you can command higher prices. Again, this is gonna go into starting over. I'm gonna give you a very brief, concise breakdown of exactly what I would do for each level as we get to the end of this, but I feel like it's important to preface all of this. But strategy allowed me to raise my prices to that $750 to $1,000 mark because I'm not just coming in and going, I'm running these things. I have a strategy that is duplicatable and that works. Commanding these prices is where you get into, based on the niche that you're picking, having sophisticated understanding of what their business model is, understanding the problems that they have with their teams, their people answering their phone, how they respond to their leads, how they're pricing, etc. Being able to consult with them and provide them solutions. It's ultimately where the value of anything that we're doing here, solutions to problems, is where you get to start commanding higher price points. So our ability to know not just, hey, you want to show up high on Google search with your Google My Business, but being able to do market research, understanding enough about their business so that I can go in and say, hey, you've tapped out this market. It doesn't matter Like our strategy was we're going to run Google ads and do SEO and we're going to do it in this way. But the footprint that you have right now, you've tapped out that market. The next arguable step here is it's time to open a new location, right? And knowing that there's a ceiling or threshold for the amount of demand there. My experience and my ability to consult them on where, be able to go do market research and understand where they should open that next location and what they can expect as a return on that location gives us the ability to command higher price points. Whereas the button pusher, they're just like, I want you to run ads and I want you to run it to these keywords. This is where the business owner up here is just telling them, I want you to focus on these keywords and run these things. This has less value. Adding a strategy layer creates more value. Adding a consulting layer adds additional value. And this is where you become a true expert at whatever you're doing. All right. So with that in mind, let's go down here. Again, we had 4 phases. So let's talk about how I would handle each of the 4 phases. 0 to 10K. In this phase, number 1, presuming I have no money, I'm going to leverage some skill sets here of my ability to speak and do sales. So I'm going to cold call. This is tough, but in order to get to this 0 to 10K mark, I only need about 5 to 10 clients, especially with my ability to have the consulting on top. But we're presuming that I have no credibility either, right? We're assuming that I don't have prior credibility. And so in this freelancer mode, I'm going to call, I'm going to email, but I'm going to leverage past experience so that I can speak directly to my avatar. Now, totally skipping ahead here, things that I want you to be thinking about to make the dollars. What is your niche? Who is your ideal client? This is super important. This is where I got way off base. I got it figured out that I could get some people to pay me money for my SEO service, but I would take anybody that would work with me, which meant every project was different because I didn't have a specific niche or vertical. This is preached a million times. I'm sure you're familiar with this concept at this point. How you pick your niche, I think, is important, and something that I spend a lot of time with my coaching clients working on is making sure that we pick the right niche for you based on what skill sets you already have, because it's short and condenses. Most people give you a great big list and they're like, here's ones that make money, here's ones that make less money, pick one. And they're absolutely right when it doesn't really matter which one you pick, but I feel like you can do yourself a service by picking something that you already have experience in. We work with a lot of home service trades and work with a lot of medical companies. I still have 2 different verticals that we work within inside of our agency at this point. The reason for that is my dad was a home builder. I have a lot of knowledge about what plumbers do and framers and roofers and HVAC contractors and concrete. Like, I know everything there is to know about home services. I've worked in home services. I've done it. I've experienced it. I have spoken with a lot of them. And so I can build a lot of rapport really fast. And I have a true understanding of what their situations are and their struggles and et cetera. And so this makes it easier for me to have this conversation than someone that you grew up and your dad was a banker and you've never once set foot on a construction site. You're probably going to have a harder time picking that up. It's not that you can't. And home service is a great vertical, right? There's a lot of money to be made inside of helping home service businesses, but maybe because your dad's a banker, maybe you're looking at somebody that wants to do finance and helping people with loans. I don't know. Again, it depends on your specific situation. Again, this is why it's great to have a mentor, to do a call with someone that can help you discover what niche makes most sense for you. End of the day, they can all suck. End of the day, they can all be super successful. The caveat and exception to that is ones that don't spend money. One that's super saturated that we went into for a while and I still have clients in is chiropractic. That being said, chiropractors are a different breed, and ultimately, I have less desire to work directly with chiropractors as much as I would like to actually go purchase. I understand enough about the model in the business because I have 2 really good friends who've made multi-7-figure chiropractic companies. They're industry gurus. They teach chiropractors how to build business. They're true businessmen. I have enough understanding that I, at this point, am looking to buy brick and mortars. I was trying to make an offer on one this past year. Unfortunately, it fell through due to timing. I need a chiropractor to help back this situation. The one that I was going to leverage or use was going through some personal things. And so timing didn't work out. I lost the opportunity on that deal. We're looking for others, as aside from the point. But the point is, every niche can suck and every niche can be great as long as they know how to, they have the ability to produce money. If there's a business that's making no money, like somebody selling, I don't know, dog turds, that's probably going to be a really hard business to market. So finding somebody who has a product or service that's in high demand that people want, that makes it a lot easier for you to do your job. As a marketer, your objective is you need to show it to more people and you need to convince them that they need to buy it from you, right? That's kind of it in a nutshell. And then who's your ideal client? So not just niche selection, but who is this person, right? How do they show up and operate? Because something else that really, really, really made it hard for me and is, I think, even more critical at this 0 to 10K mark, because you're limited on time. You're going to be doing all the sales. You're going to be doing all the fulfillment. You're doing all the communication with the clients. So understanding who this person is, right? We have criteria and red flags and places that I'm like, no. And we have different structures in place. So when we do sales, we have this thing that we sell to them on the front end before we ever sign a long-term agreement. And it's really more for us than it is for them. They get a lot of value out of it. Don't get me wrong, but we are actually using it as a grading system to understand, like, how do they communicate? Do they get us the resources that we need to execute on this thing quickly and easily? Like, we're grading and measuring how they're going to mesh with us. Because if we have trouble with that small process, it's going to be a problem in the long term. And if we're consuming way more energy in our communication and they're causing problems and they're asking for things that we don't offer, and in general, they're consuming more resource of time, if it nothing else, which means that we're making less profit. Whereas if I can take on a client that does their part, they get us the things we need quickly and efficiently, we're able to go execute quickly and efficiently. They get a great return. They don't cause a lot of trouble. We don't have extra communications that are not accounted for inside of what we're charging. I'm able to service 2 or 3 of those for every one bad client. So the ability to say no is actually most important. And Alex Ramosi has talked through this at one point, I think is an interesting concept. I had to learn how to quit on something before I started my business. I learned how to quit my job, but then immediately you have to unlearn that skill of learning how to quit, and you have to be determined to not quit at any cost, right? Same thing here. When you're looking at taking on clients, you've got to start saying yes to a lot of things till you get familiar with what you know you want and need and what's going to work best for you. When you have that clarity, then you have to start saying no, and saying no a lot. I say no to a lot of deals and opportunities. I know that we could get the card swipe, but I know that I'm not going to be as leveraged as I want to be. I know our team's not going to be as leveraged as I want to be. The short-term gratification of getting to charge them for a few months is no good to me. I'm looking for partners that we can work with for years. I've got people that have been with us for 8 years, 5 years, 6 years. Like, our company has customers that have been with us for a long time. We retain customers for years, not months. And it's because of how we're framing this on the front end. So I'm going to be super careful as I'm going through this, who my ideal client is. I already know that going in. Also, we need to know what we are selling. Now, if you want to start an SEO agency, that's fantastic. If I had it to do all over again, I would introduce SEO because it's a highly profitable skill set. But if I was starting out, I would hands down be focused on paid ads first, because there's a lot fewer mechanical components. I would have more leverage time myself starting a paid ads agency, whether that's Facebook ads, whether that's Google ads. Those are 2 of the prominent ones that I have under my belt that I could go execute on and work with a client on. You're still going to have obstacles, right? You're going to need potentially resources and assets from them. You need to know what the offer should be, but it's more replicatable as opposed to with SEO. There's a lot of moving components, right? You've got Google My Business and how to set that up, and process for that. And you got to buy links and or go build them yourself. You got to write content. Like, there's a whole lot more that goes into the fulfillment, and yet the price point that we charge is roughly the same. There's a little bit more for SEO, but I can get more output out of the paid ads. So I would start with paid ads, and over time, I would start layering in the SEO. If your skill set is just SEO, that's fine. I just want you to understand that it's a harder road because there's less leverage because of the number of things you need to do it well. Now, if you're following somebody that's telling you just need to build a couple of citations and a couple of links, and that's like all you got to do, that's more that bad information. And again, I would encourage you, hop on a phone call with me. Let's talk about what real SEO looks like. Now, we have a sophisticated understanding of what goes into it. We take a much more holistic view. We're looking at content. We're looking at CRO. We're looking at the Google My Business. We're looking at AI. We're looking at the links. We're looking at reputation building. Like, there's so many facets that go into it to do it well, to get great, desirable results where customers, again, stick with us for years. I have a customer who's been with us for 8 years. All we do for him is SEO. I don't do any paid ads. He's never been interested in paid ads. He doesn't need paid ads. And yet you have to understand all the mechanical components that go into SEO to get that kind of result where they can stay with you that long. All right. What are we selling? I know for me, I'm going to start with paid ads. I'm going to start with Google ads, right? That may change here in the near future. At the time of recording this, we're in April 2025. Like, I'm anticipating a pretty major shift with search moving over to ChatGPT and Perplexity. I think there's going to be some market share shift. I think Google's going to clap back, but I don't know where and how that's going to go. So Google ads may be less desirable. I may have to learn a new platform, whatever, but paid ads in general have been easier to start and scale. Again, because you can do sales and fulfillment at the same time, much easier. All right, I'm going to call and I'm going to email because I don't have money for ads yet, right? And the objective is I just need 5 to 10 customers. 5 to 10 customers. What else goes in that you don't know? Well, we know what niche, we know who our ideal client is or how it is to work with them, how they communicate, how they show up, what they give us, etc. I know what we're selling. What are they selling? What do they want to sell more of? Having a sophisticated understanding of that is also going to give me an advantage of putting together a call or an email that creates curiosity. These two platforms for our modalities of getting clients are the same as when we move into the next phase and we start doing ads. So many people get this wrong and they feel like the purpose of ads is to get you clients, but we're skipping over steps. The purpose of ads is not to get you clients. It's to get you conversations, right? And this is why I feel confident in calling. There's I think it's the most hated sales trainer in the UK or something like that. It has a fantastic channel. And I feel like his approach to cold calling helped change my mental model years and years and years ago for how and what to do when it comes to structuring ads. You have to understand there's components, there's phases that you're going through. And to layer on top of it, one of my mentors talks about you have to capture permission, then you convert their mindset, and then you close, right? When I call someone, the first thing is I need to capture their permission to speak with them. Because if you just start running into your pitch and you've been on the other end of these, somebody calls and they're like, you need this thing and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, yeah, no, thanks. Click, right? So capture their permission into it. So that's the first phase. The first opening line, the first 3 seconds is, hey, this is a cold call. May I have permission to tell you what it's about? And if it doesn't make sense after the end of the 10 seconds, like you can just hang up on me and we'll part ways as friends. Does that sound fair? Most people, if you will denote it like that, will go, all right, you're polite, hit me. And then the next 10 seconds is not about selling them your product or service. It's to get them intrigued. So you're going to build intrigue with the next line. And then from there, your next objective is, again, not to sell them. It's to sell them on the idea of, hey, I know you're probably busy right now and I couldn't really truly explain this thoroughly. You seem to have some kind of interest. It seems like it might be reasonable to conversate on this. Can I pick out a time with you that we can actually sit down and talk, whether that's on Zoom or a longer phone call, etc. That's the framework of the call, because then we can get them on a longer call with us where they're already bought into the idea. We've captured their permission to speak with them on this. And then we're going to use that longer form conversation to convert their mindset from where they're at right now, what they're doing right now. And you can't do that without truly understanding where they're at right now. This is why, despite the fact that I'm sharing a lot of great information with you today, if you stuck with me thus far, thank you so much. You're one of the few that cares and wants to understand these things thoroughly. But I can help you better. Somebody else can help you better if I know your specific situation. Until I understand your situation, can't help guide you. It's like, we'll draw it down here. If I think you're in New York and you want to go to Dublin, I don't know, random place, but you're actually in Florida, I can tell you directions. You're going to go down here and you're going to make a left, and then you're going to go down here and then you're going to make a right, and then you're going to arrive at Dublin. Those directions work if you're actually in New York, but you may misidentify that you're in New York and you're actually somewhere in Florida. And so the directions leave you out here in this wandering land of who knows where, and it's definitely not Dublin. I'm realizing you can't see this, so let me show you. So with that in mind, again, knowing where you're at is important if you want to hop on a one-to-one call. I'm giving those away for free right now. I have a few spots left so far, and I'll help you get clear on where you're at so we can build a direct roadmap for you. But all right, so call and email. Objective is I'm going to sell them paid ads. I'm probably going to be in the home service space, and I need to know what they desire to sell more of. So if I'm talking about tree service, like, okay, they want more emergency jobs. If it's a roofer, okay, they want more residential jobs, or maybe they want more commercial jobs. I need to know what they want so that I can get them to buy in. And again, call and email are ways where I've got more time than money at this point until I get to that 5 or 10 clients. Then I'm going to be tapped out. Then I'm going to go do ads. But the thing that I'm going to do before I do ads is, with the revenue that I'm generating at 10K, I can likely get somebody like PayPal. You can go open an American Express card, etc. If your credit's pretty good, you haven't done anything stupid there. I'm going to go get a credit line. I'm going to look for between $10,000 and $20,000 in a credit line, because I'm going to spend $2,500 or so on ads to go into this next phase. And I'm going to spend another $2,500 a month roughly on someone that can do the button pushing and watch the ads that I'm already built. And I'm going to have taken some time before I do this to build an SOP for how I want this executed on. And the reason for that is I'm buying a button pusher. For $2,500, I can find someone that would be willing. It may not be their only gig, right? They may not be completely dedicated to me, but I can get them to probably run 5 or 10 of my clients for $2,500 a month with minimal effort because I've already set the campaigns up. I'm doing all the communication with the client still. And I want you to understand something else that I feel is valuable and important. Something a lot of gurus neglect to teach is retention is everything. Because if I've got 5 or 10 customers, but I'm churning them out because I'm not getting them the desired result, that's going to make this whole process more difficult. So to make sure that this is going smoothly, one of the biggest components of that, something I preach and teach to my entire team, is arguably the most valuable thing that we do as an agency is how we communicate with our customers. Always operating from a position of authority as experts in what we do, always consulting them on what we feel is best. And we're always bringing problems to them before they are aware of them. If something has gone wrong, we're bringing them that problem before they're aware of it. And we're showing up with a solution. We're not just pointing out and going, hey, there's a problem. We're going to look into it. It's, hey, there's a problem. Here's what we've already done to look into it. Here's what we think we're going to be doing. Here's why we're going to be doing it. This gives peace of mind to that business owner. This helps with the retention. I could argue it's not ethical at all. I don't recommend it. This is not what we do. I want to be very hyper clear on this. But I am confident in the way that we communicate, the way we have built trust with our customers. If we turned everything off that we do right now, did none of the work, because of how we communicate, I think we could still retain them for 3 to 6 months. And if you can build that into how you show up and you're getting great results, your retention is going to go through the roof. This is going to make it much easier for you to grow and scale. $2,500 a month up here goes to someone building ads. I'm going to give them an SOP. And then $2,500 is going to go into ads to help me get additional customers. Now, mathing that out here, $2,500 divided by 30 days is about $83. $83 a day. So I'm going to just call it around 75. At $75 per day, I can predictably get about 10 or 12 conversations based on me understanding what our customers want. And something else that I'm going to incorporate over here is case studies. Something that I wish I had started doing sooner that would help accelerate the process is, as I'm getting results, which is in the name of our company, as I'm getting results, I'm documenting the whole way. First 60, 30, 90 days, I'm getting on a call with these customers and I'm talking through with them, where are you at, what's going on? And then I'm capturing permission to use that video recording as an asset. And I'm going to cut it and use it to build credibility and proof, because I can rant and say that I'm the greatest all fucking day, but if I can get clients to say that we're the greatest, awesome. Now, I may not have money at the beginning for this, but as we move into this second phase here, I'm going to be also, get rid of the calculator. As we're moving into this second phase here, I'm going to be starting to invest in some softwares and tools that also help me track more efficiently. So I may be using like Google Search Console and Google Analytics and building a Looker Studio report in the beginning, but I may start investing in something like Agency Analytics where I can pull more robust data. I may start using something like Local Falcon if I'm doing SEO to pull heat maps, things like that. So I can show incremental process and I start building case study data around the results that I'm creating and video testimonials and written testimonials, so I can build social proof and credibility quickly. That's going to help supplement the ads when we do the ads. Ads are great. The effectiveness of those go up. Like, we just launched an initiative where we took all of our written testimonials and we've got them in carousel format, and people are going to get retargeted with those as they've seen my video ad. They're like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? They see me like 10, 12 times and I'm saying the right things to them, but they don't know who I am. And then they're reading written testimonials and then they look us up and they realize the testimonials are real because they're looking at Google. And I've accumulated a lot of Google reviews. And then they start looking and they realize I have a YouTube channel, and they realize that I teach other agency owners how to build an agency, and they realize the content that we put out around, the psychology for buyer's guides and stuff like that, that helps improve in their market. And like, all these things contribute to getting more people to say yes. It's not just that I could pop up an ad and nobody know who I am and never seen my face before and say a magic series of words that's going to pick the lock. There's going to be a small percentage of people that will buy from me under that term. There's a wider pool of people that are going to be nurtured over time. So this first month running ads, I'm only going to get 2 or 3 customers, but it's going to give me some time back. I'm not spending so much time cold calling or emailing, right? And I'm not doing those at mass. I'm not trying to use like some crazy auto dialer thing. I'm being very specific with who I'm reaching out to and intentional. I think something else that people go wrong in is they think, oh, I'm going to run ads and I'm trying to get 100 clients. When I think about running ads, I'm like, how am I getting the next 5 to 10 clients? How do I be very specific about who I want and when I want them and what they look like. And I'm only focused on iteratively trying to get the next 5 to 10. And when I start breaking it down in that mode, there's definitely something to be said for volume. I'm not making 1 to 2 calls a day and expecting that I'm going to get a lot of clients. I'm making hundreds of calls, but that's because I know I need hundreds of calls to get the next 5 or 10. When I'm lining my actions up there, I'm not skipping over steps and trying to move too fast. I'm not trying to think like, oh, I need to build out this backend system to handle when they come in, a follow-up sequence here and blah, 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 blah for the ads. Like, nope. I know that I'm aiming for 5 to 10. I know I need them at this volume for me to have them opt into a lead form or fill in their information in a form on a landing page. And then I'm picking up the phone and calling them. I'm vetting them real quick to make sure that they seem like a right fit. I'm not going to bug them for a long time. I've opened a conversation with them. I'm making sure that they're genuinely interested, probably the right fit. And then I'm ensuring, hey, you're going to show up to this call. Great. Give them some expectations. And then we're going to show up to the call. And based on the information I've collected, information I've gone and looked at about them and who they are, we're going to be able to have a compelling argument to convert their mindset on why they should use our services. And then I don't even have to hard sell anybody. I don't ever hard sell anybody. The confidence in my ability to showcase what our product is, why it works, they are led to the conclusion that it makes sense to work with us. And then most of the people that I want to work with will buy from us. And again, I would also put in the iterative step that my company uses right now, which is I have a test project. Basically, in a nutshell, like everybody's heard of an audit, but the way we format an audit is we actually build out an entire marketing plan. And I tell them this, and because I know my market, I'm very clear on what we're building into this marketing plan, and it'd be different for you. So when you say the word audit, be aware you're going to need to disassociate to a degree because everybody has used the word audit, and they're going to think like you're going to run some automated report and hand it to them, and it's going to have no value. I have built a lot of information around and done a lot of research on understanding like what needs to go in our audits. I'm articulating that, and then I'm backing it up to go back over here with case study data of people saying, I've been through this audit process and it was so valuable. This allows me to sell that, but I'm ultimately selling it to help support me in this second phase because I want them to show if they're going to be a good fit long-term, right? Arguably, even back here in this first phase, I'm doing the same thing. Now, if I'm selling paid ads, that audit's going to look a bit different. It gets short and condensed. It's still going to have some of those key components. How long does it take them to get me access to the ad account? Do they already have analytics? Do they know what I'm talking about? Do they have the technical skill to log in and upload some things to a Google Drive folder that I need? Like, how much time and energy is going to get wasted with me trying to teach them how to use a Word doc to edit our copy before it launches? But then they get mad because they didn't have the time to like edit the Word doc with the copy. And then they realize that their ad says something that they didn't want it to say. I'm trying to lead you down this path of like, I need to stop saying like, there's so many little small things that will attritionally add up. They will eat up your time to the point that you're genuinely not making any money. You lack leveraged time. This is going to slow down your process and ability to get to a point that you have a team, and then it's going to be slowing your team down. It's not a good idea to say yes to the wrong people. So having this filtration process on the front end, again, we'll do a lot of these market plans or audits, and we'll actually say, I'm not actually making an offer today. Here's your information. Here's what you paid for. I don't think it's a good fit. And they're always stunned. And it's funny whenever you start taking that position and you're operating from a state of abundance. This is something else I want to go into in just a second. It's super important. It's going to make all this come together for you, or I hope, or it did for me. And I want you to see how it comes together. When you're operating from a state of abundance where you can say, hey, look, I don't think it's a good idea to work from you. How quickly people will pull out their credit card and they're like, no, I want to work with you. And you having to say no to that, man, we could have closed another in just the last couple of months, probably $250,000 in contracts. And I said no because I know that $250,000 sounds great on the front end, but would be a path of chaos and constraint and lack of leverage to a point that it would cost me $500,000 or $1 million. And I'm not interested in that. And without that expertise, without that knowledge, without having gone that path before, trying to figure that out for yourself can sometimes be difficult. Again, having someone that's walked the path that can help you identify those things in advance is fantastic, but think through it. If you've got someone that you've got to teach how to open their computer, how to log into it, how to open a Chrome browser, and how to edit a Google Doc, and how much time and energy that's going to take. And you're not going to do that once. There's this is real examples. We've really had clients that it's not once. You're like, okay, well, I taught them once. We're good to go. I'll make a Loom video from now on and everybody will just have the Loom. That's a fantastic line of thinking. I'm glad you're thinking there because as we move into the next step, the biggest thing that we got to tackle is systems, right? I got to have a system before I start plugging in a team. Otherwise, they don't know what I want them to do. And I'm just going to be spending all my time going, you need to do this and you need to do that. And for myself personally, I started having a system because we as human beings also have a bandwidth constraint of remembering and retaining. So I need to know, hey, when's it time for the next report to come out? Hey, when's it time to have the next communication point? Hey, when's it time for the next press release? Hey, when is the next time for making sure that the billing went through and we actually billed the client and we're making, collecting the dollars and we didn't have a failed payment. Like, you need systems for that kind of stuff. And that's happening mid-range, but I'm talking about more systems for your team. Hopefully all this is helpful and making sense. Again, if you stuck with me this far, you're awesome. We made it into an hour of training, and hopefully you're starting to see some of the finer nuances of why it would be helpful to work with someone that has done this stuff and can help identify like what phase or stage you're in. And maybe you got one gold nugget like, man, I've not been leveraging case studies, and he's right. Like, if I had 4 or 5 videos of people saying that I do this really well, this would make it a lot easier. Maybe you just didn't think of that. Maybe you didn't think about taking your written testimonials and running them as ads. Hopefully some of that's helpful. I'm going to hit you with a bigger one. We're talking about building a business, but presumably you don't just want a company that does 7 figures. You want one that's profitable. That's not right. That doesn't require removal of freedom, that doesn't have stress, that runs on its own. So that if you die, you leave something, behind, a legacy that has purpose and intention, that has value. That's not how you spell value. Value. So it's not just a number. And this is where I went wrong so many years ago, because I took on wrong clients that were asking for things that didn't make sense. I found myself doing these random chores to help make sure that I didn't lose the revenue because they possessed some sort of power over me. I had people that would call me on my weekends, interrupt me taking my kid to get ice cream or watching a movie or whatever, and I have to step out on her and go do a thing because I was constantly afraid of losing them. I had taken on so many projects that my team wasn't really equipped for, that I didn't have systems or processes around, that the client paid us a lot of money, but it required mainly my time. So despite the fact that we're supposed to be up here in phase 2 to 3, where I've got a team and people are helping me, but I've put myself in this position that I'm really just still a freelancer because I was doing all of the fulfillment, communications, etc. on those. So I had a handful of clients that my team was working on. Those are the ones that have still been with us. Like, they didn't get removed. I had all these other projects that were like large national SEO campaigns. Nothing wrong with those. I just hadn't built a team or system or process around that. And I didn't really have a lot of enjoyment with that. I enjoy local based business. I help local businesses grow. And that gives me a lot of fulfillment. Seeing my impact on our longest standing client, who went from $600,000 a year up to $3.5 million, has started a new green energy business that's on pace to do $1 million, $1.5 million, bought a new pool, was able to retire his wife, has become like a second grandpa to my daughter, like built this beautiful friendship and watched their life improve, his ability to hire more people and have a positive impact on our community. That's impactful to me, as opposed to some of the larger e-commerce brands and stuff that we work with. Yeah, it was cool what we did. I got a lot of industry experience. It was cool. They enjoyed it. They definitely didn't fire us. They were actually disappointed when we left them, but I parted ways with companies like that because it wasn't as fulfilling for me personally. So I was showing up and I was doing all this work, and they were the kind of ones that would ask us to do things, and I didn't know how to say no because I was afraid of losing the revenue. One of them was paying us 30 grand a month. I had to inevitably part ways with that. But within that, I was staying up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning trying to build a presentation, and I hate presentations. I'm like, I didn't sign up for this. I wanted to do SEO, and I'm building a presentation or a slide deck on something that I don't even care about, and it's not truly going to be that helpful or impactful to the company. And yet, if I don't do it, they're mad because this is what their requirements or their terms were to work with them, like driving myself insane. And so you have to keep in mind, not just this revenue number, right? Building $1 million a year business, but also like, how are you building it? What goes inside of it? What's important to you? And one of the single most important things that I ever learned, we call the C framework, which helps you keep clarity on your body, being, balance, business. If you are a follower of Tai Lopez, this is like your health, wealth, love, and happiness kind of formulas. Within your body, your fitness and your fuel, like, how are you taking care of your body? I let my body get deteriorated down to a point that the doctors told me if I continued on what I was doing, I would have died. Like, straight up, I'm 33 years old, but I would have died because of the abuse through the alcohol, the lack of exercise, the lack of sleep, the buildup of cortisol. I already had a congenital issue with my kidneys. So I wasn't being fulfilled. And this is, your body is everything. Without a body, you can't go enjoy any of the fruits of your labor of building a profitable business. I was making all the money I needed, making a lot of money, but I was not enjoying my life. I was miserable all the fucking time. So what's the point or the purpose? So before we talk any more about like progression here, and if you've stuck this far, you have an interest in doing this correctly, I would hope. How are you taking care of your body? And how do we incorporate, as we're building this business, making sure that it's part of your lifestyle to take care of your body? Now, look, you may not care about being ripped, but you still need to be healthy, right? If you lack health, you're on your deathbed. Number one, your business is going to fall apart unless you've gotten to the owner status, right? Go back up here, the phases somewhere, wherever it's at. Okay, quit that. Is it drawn? Okay, I don't know where it went, but you got to the owner status. Sure, maybe the business continues on with you being unhealthy, but ultimately, we want and need to be healthy in order to enjoy our labor. So this is the vehicle we get to drive around this cool earth while we are alive. And based on how healthy you are or not, it's going to limit your opportunities to enjoy it. So I want to take care of that. Being is purpose. This is where I had that divide of like, do I give up these large national clients? I wasn't being fulfilled. This is your connection to purpose. And I promised myself that I was going to denote this. Ultimately, I think that part of what got me through the hard times, despite the fact that it's a newfound relationship that I have with God, I kept referencing quotes in the Bible, despite the fact that I didn't want a relationship with God, of how God provides for all of his creatures, even the birds of the earth, or I forget what the exact passage is. I'm not one of those Bible thumpers that memorize all the Bible verses, but it was an important verse to me because it gave me hope, because I got down to this place that I just felt overwhelmed and burdened, and I didn't know where to go and what to do, and being able to rely on that. And my life has improved that much more as I have built this relationship with God that I now realize does not require me to go to church or go through somebody else. I have a beautiful relationship with God, and I have a connection to my purpose. I know what I want out of life, and having that heading allows you to stay above water. I think that's the next most important thing you need to incorporate into your business. As you're building your business, does it fulfill you? Does it give you purpose? If you're just doing it for money, I can't see you getting to the other side. Or if you do, it's going to be a long, hard road. I wake up every morning excited to run our agency, to lead the people that I do, to work with the customers that I do. I know what our purpose and intention is, and it gives me a great sense of purpose and fulfillment. And because I have that fulfillment, I don't ever need to fall back on being hyped up from a Tony Robbins motivational speech or something like that to help me keep going, because I have purpose. The purpose is what helps me continue to propel myself forward. Balance is your relationships. I told you I almost got a divorce from my wife because we become so distant, because all my focus and energy was going into my business. If you're designing your business in such a way that it requires you to remove yourself from people, now there's that trade-off of you learn something and you have to unlearn it. If you're starting a business, you're at that 0 to 10,000 mark, you may have people around you that are saying like, oh, you'll never do that. You'll never do that. You'll never be able to do that. And you got to cut those people out of your life because they're affecting your mind, right? The reason me and my wife had become distant was not that. And I did have people like that. I've even had people like that that I removed from my life and I've brought back in. So it's not even necessarily that you have to remove them forever. I had this one friend named Ryan, and he laughed at me when I started my company, and he was like, nobody's ever going to pay you $1,000 a month to do SEO for them. That's crazy. I can't imagine a local business is paying, just because he couldn't expand his mind far enough to think that. And then I ended up having people pay me $30,000 a month for SEO. Just one client, $30,000 a month being paid for SEO services. So he couldn't see it. I could see the bigger picture. You do have to remove those people. But to get back to the point, my relationship had deteriorated because I wasn't putting time and energy into the relationship. You want a great marriage, you want a great relationship with anybody, it takes work. You have to be making daily investments in this. And this is where the C4 framework comes in, of how and what am I doing to invest in these areas of my life, and understanding that they have a synergistic nature, which we'll break down in a second. And then within business, ensuring that you're always learning, but what you're learning is actually valuable to the growth of your company. I told you at the very beginning of the video, I was a chronic learner, and this was a huge distraction for me because I would learn how to do drop shipping and how to do day trading and how to do all this thing, that thing, this thing, that. I love learning. I'm just a student of life. I love learning, and I will spend copious amounts of time learning stuff. Some of it's not valuable or useful. So having a focus to what it is that you're learning every single day, and then declare is learning how to teach it. This helps you reinforce what you've learned. So it's a see one, do one, teach one model. Arguably one of the best ways to solidify that you know what you're doing. I learned and got better at SEO or paid ads as I built systems and processes for a team, and I started teaching and training in those Savage 6 skill sets, teaching and training them on how to do that. I became better at it because when you're forced to explain it, when you're forced to teach it, when you're forced to train someone on it, it forces you to identify where they're going wrong, why they're going wrong. You get better at that examination of the situation. It reinforces your own understanding of it and gives you a higher level of skill set there. So see one, do one, teach one is an important framework. But the synergy between these, all right, if I'm sick and unhealthy and I don't feel good, that's going to affect how I'm showing up inside of my business to go make the money. It's going to affect how I'm showing up and spending time with my family, or whether I am. I may just like every time I get done working, I go lay down and go to sleep, or watch a fucking football game, or do whatever, check out, so that I'm not spending time with it. For me, I ended up finding myself drinking full fifths of vodka and just checking out. This deteriorates your relationships. It can affect how you show up in your being, your spirituality, connection to God. If I take really good care of my body, this can make me show up better in balance, better in business, and better in being. When I have purpose and intention and I'm fulfilled, then I feel more freedom and desire to go take care of my body so that I can reap the rewards of the prosperity that I'm putting together. With my purpose and intention, I feel good. I'm operating from a place of abundance. I can have better relationships. I can lead my teams with more certainty. I can work with my clients with more certainty. I can build my business with more certainty. When I'm making more money, I can spend more time taking care of my health. I can eat better food. I can afford better experiences. Like I do jujitsu on a regular basis. It costs money. I have access to gyms. I have access to supplements. I have access to peptides to help with my healing. So I can spend more money on those things. I can spend more money, have more resources, etc., to take my wife on dates and my daughter to experiences and movies and whatever else to build those relationships. With more money, I can spend time on going and doing meditation retreats and whatever else. As I build my business, and I have a team that can support that. I can focus on things that help me get more clarity. So these all work synergistically. And one of the favorite things I have in the whole wide world is the definition of synergy. I'll just read it to you verbatim. Synergy is the interaction or cooperation of two or more organized substances or agents to produce a combined effect that is greater than the sum of their separate efforts, greater than the sum of their equal parts. Meaning, if you're putting energy into all four of these pillars on a daily basis with focus, with intentionality, in a way that supports you of what the original goal was, to be not just revenue driven, come back over here, not just revenue driven, but profitable, or gives you freedom without stress, that can run on its own, that is powered with intention, that has value. This is the kind of business we want to run. And until you have clarity on that, and for the sake of time, because I've already spent an hour and 20 minutes with you here, I want you to understand that as we start building these systems, we're going over into the owner realm. You got architect and owner. You need this clarity to build this part, because it builds systems, culture, products. It gives you your purpose, and it helps you stay rooted in what it is that you're building. Because as you move out of this second phase, I forget what we called it. How do you get, after you get through this like operator mode, right? You start building yourself into a place of either abundance or chaos. As you scale past that original marker, which I know we had up here somewhere, 0 to 20K, and you move into that 20 to 50K mark, and then 50K plus. This is where it has a tendency to go wrong. This is where I went wrong. Up until then, it's really kind of by the seat of your pants and you're trying to figure it out. And again, I think working with someone like me, please take me up on my one-to-one call. My objective is not to sell you there. It's just to help give you clarity, because I felt like if I had had one better conversation at some point in time without someone trying to sell me some nonsense, copy paste, blueprint, bullshit system, whatever, just had my best interest at heart, which is what I truly want for you. God has placed on my heart to give out 25 free calls. I have a few left. Book a one-on-one call with me. It's a $50 deposit. I give the $50 deposit back. And if you decide to work with me in the back end of that, fantastic. If you don't, that's okay too. But up until this point, you're trying to just figure out what it is that you want, I think, from freelance to operator. Now, for me, I already know what these things are, so I'm going to go through them hyper quickly. And like I said, I'm going to have leverage of knowing with certainty that I can execute and act. Part of what's going to hold you back is you've not done it before, and so you won't execute as quickly as you should with the level of confidence. I'm able to sell more people than you because I've done it before. That's it. It's just reps. And so you're going to be getting your reps in through that period in your life, right? From 0 to 10K, from 10 to 20K. After you get past that part, and this is also why that was where I like broke everything back down. I fired all the clients. I went back and looked at the through line of like, who are my favorite clients to work with? What was the industries I liked working in? What gave me purpose? What gave me intentionality? What clients were the best so that I had the most leverage, that weren't trouble? They weren't calling me on the weekends. They weren't bothering me. I started setting some lines in the sand for myself of like, what do I want? And getting hyper clear on that. And if I'm saying these things and you're asking yourself the question, like, I don't know the answer to that, you need to focus on those things. It's not just a tactical, hey, I can run some ads and I'm going to get the next 20 clients and I'm going to be at $100,000 a month. There's videos out there with gurus all over the place. They're a dime a dozen. I'm not going to name all of them. You can find them everywhere. And they're absolutely correct. You can go get to $100,000 a month very quickly. But the liability of that, you owe people things. They may not be the right clients. There's going to be a tremendous amount of churn. There's going to be a lot of anxiety and pressure. And if you want to build with consistency and clarity, you have to think through these things before you get there. And you need to be thinking about them all the way along. And if you're missing any of the skill sets, we talked about the Savage Six and your ability to become a leader, somebody that can sell and compel, someone who can teach and train, who can consult. These are all things that go into being able to raise the value of what you offer, the ability to build a culture and a team that will follow you, that will get the desired outcome and result, which helps play into retention of the clients, the success with those clients. Like if you're missing any of those skill sets and you're rejecting the idea that you have to go learn how to be good at sales and you want to just use somebody's simple framework where you don't have to be really good at it, you just use like a risk reversal offer or something like that, you're going to attract the wrong clients and it's going to make it difficult, right? You can't just think about from A to Z, or I said that incorrectly, A to B, which is getting the dollars. What happens after you get the dollars? How long do you want to retain your clients for? What amount of effort and energy do you want to have to exert to keep them? Do you want to have to do, you want to get down to the point that you're walking their fucking dog? Is that ever part of the deal, but you're doing it because you don't want to lose the 20, 30 grand that you got out of the deal? How much risk and liability do you want? Like being intentional with those things will give you the ability to have a business that you're truly proud of. It gives you purpose and intention. That is not full of stress. We could grow so much faster. We could go to 2, 3, 4 million very quickly, being very concise and methodical because I've not been to the other side of that. I've not been to 2 million. I've not been to 3 million a year. And I'm trying to look for these pitfalls because my past experience says that when I move too quickly without intentionality, being quick is not a problem. Again, if you knock me down, you take everything away from me. In the next 90 days, I get close to half this back. I can move very quickly because I'm going to go get a loan against the money that I start bringing in. After bringing that first 5 or 10, I'm probably going to start with paid ads first. Gives me the most leverage. That gets me up to 10 or 20K. Then I'm going to go build the SOPs and documentation. I already have a mental framework. I know exactly what those things need to be. Then I'm going to start hiring, hire 1, 2, 3, 4, get up to the team. Like I can recreate what I have very quickly. If not 90 days, well under 6 months, but it's because I've been there before. I've not been to 3 or 4 million before. In transparency, you may not have been to 7 figures before. You may not have been to multiple 6 figures before. You want to be intentional. And again, you're going to need to lean into, if you're missing any of these skill sets, start working on those. If you're terrible at sales, work on it. If you're terrible at speaking, work on it. If you don't know how to be a consultant and speak with authority and have knowledge in your head around the industry you're trying to work in, like go work on that, supplement that. Without that, this is going to be a harder path for you. And again, as you get to architect, like you already know what the product and service is by then, or you should. So you know who to say no to, and you start building your system around that, and you start hiring around that, and knowing who the right person is for that role is important. As I put out additional podcasts, videos, whatever, I'll cover some of my frameworks for how I figure out who I'm hiring, whether they're going to be a good fit, not just from a skill set perspective, but a culture perspective. Building a digital team is much harder than building one that's all in the same building. So locally, we'll talk through some of those components. Those are going to be big hangups for that 20 to 50K mark, how you can incentivize them properly so that you don't have to micromanage them, figuring out tests that you can put them through so that you can very quickly figure out if they're the right fit, as opposed to they're there for a year, they're making everybody miserable, you're losing clients over them, etc., to get you up into this owner role. So if you're brand new, it's really just getting figured out, like, what is the niche you're going to work on, and having hyper clarity on why you picked that, not just because that industry makes money, not just because you see someone else being successful with it. How does it fit for you? And if you're at a place you're like not sure and you're having trouble figuring it out, I had a lot of trouble with that. I waited way too long to pick a niche, but it's very hard to grow and scale if you don't narrow it down. And niche can be not just the type of customer you work with. It can also be what kind of services you operate off of. At this point, I'm very niche in the fact that we don't offer social ads. I don't do social posting. I don't do anything outside of our ecosystem or realm of realistically the Google ecosystem. But again, it's bled over into AI search at this point. So search is our game. Products and services that we offer fit within that bracket. That's niche. Then we are very specific on a subset of home services that we like working on and medical that we like working on. And we have a preference towards the home services over specific medical. But I had just been through so many industries. There's almost not one that I've not touched at this point, that I had clarity on the ones that we like, that work best for our systems, work best for the products that we offer. The product that you offer can also determine whether or not the niche is correct. Because if I want to offer local SEO, that doesn't work as well for someone like a realtor as it does a tradesman that does HVAC or something like that. So freelance, you're figuring out who it is, what you want to offer, what they want, and how to get in front of them and talk to them in a way that compels them to want to work with you. And you're building case study and data. That's what I'm doing in that phase. I'm just getting the first 5 to 10. I'm getting hyper clear on what I'm offering them, creating a result, and then I'm creating case studies around that result, which help me to make sure that my ads are effective and I'm speaking clearly to them in the ads. I'm getting a handful of calls per week, opening conversations. Remember, ads are not to get you clients, so to open conversations and to create conversations that you can compel them. You capture their permission to convert their mindset to why they need to work with you and how what you offer them work. And that's why building that case study data and building the content and building that authority very quickly will help me move very quickly and growing and scaling that back. And as I'm getting to that place, I'm also building some small systems to get some help with the managing of the clients, but I'm still doing all the communication because retention is everything, and proper communication can help you retain clients for long term. Those are some of the first initial systems that I'm putting together and in place, but it's the last thing I'm giving up. It's the last thing I'm getting up. If I'm doing SEO, paid ads, website design, whatever, I'm hiring a web designer, I'm hiring an SEO, I'm hiring somebody to run the paid ads. I'm going to do account management, project management, customer communications, reporting. All that stuff's going to live with me because it's arguably the most important. You got sales as well. And like I said, I'm kind of in between this owner and architect role because I'm still engineering what I'm going to, for myself, feel like is the most optimal sales team. I don't want a sales team that just sells purely off of their ability to collect commission because they're going to sell the wrong clients, which causes kinks for growth and scale long term. And I know what that path leads to. I've been tempted in taking the risk and sold clients that I shouldn't because they were willing to pay me a lot of money. I don't want a commission-based sales team, or not a purely commission-based sales team. But I also don't want to just pay them a salary where they're not incentivized to actually work the leads, because I've seen companies rely on somebody who just collects a salary and they're not compelled to follow up as aggressively with the leads as they should. Sometimes there's clients that need an extra push, that need to be communicated with more, need to be followed up on. I've closed deals with great clients that end up becoming clients for years that my first touch point was a year ago, and I'm refarming them, I'm reharvesting them, going back, I'm recommunicating with them because it was the wrong time, but they've gotten to a point now that they're the right fit. And I don't want to lose those opportunities. I think in terms of, if I've got a fish that's too small, let's throw them back. Let's put them in a stock pond. Let's grow them to a point that they can then work with us. And so I'll provide resources, information, direction. Honestly, we get testimonials from people all the time that they didn't work with us on the front end. They end up working with us later, but they gave us a testimonial because of how we treated them without selling them. We just gave them value. I got them pointed in the right direction. And then they remember that and they come back to us later. So having a sales team that's purely just operating off of the salary may not be incentivized to go, hey, we haven't talked to Bob, who we talked to a year ago. Let me go chase them down and see what's up. So I'm still working on engineering a sales system that's going to be most optimal. So I still handle a lot of the sales. I have people that help me within the sales team, and they're motivated in different manners or ways. I'm still working through that. I'm going to bridge architect to owner through that because the company can continue to operate without me. I can step away for weeks, probably a couple months at a time. No problem, no direction. They can run, no issue. I got people communicating with customer. I got people taking care of fulfillment, but the company's not going to grow on its own. And my ultimate objective to classify myself as owner fully is to have this sales system where they can run their own ads. They can collect their own leads. They'll follow up on them. They'll nurture them. They'll turn them into new opportunities and deals, sign the client, and then I will have full ownership. And you'll note, like, that doesn't necessarily bridge. You don't necessarily become an owner just because you step into 7-figure. You could still be stuck at operator or architect while doing 7 figures in revenue. And that's what I'm trying to prevent you from doing. Is that's a recipe for disaster. Again, the more money you're accepting every single month, it's more liabilities that can compound on you. and drive you crazy if you haven't put rules and systems and processes and people into place for that. So if you made it all the way to the end, hopefully this was valuable to you, gave you some food for thought, some things you haven't thought about that are outside of the scope of just the normal, like, here's how you quickly get to 7 figures. Look, dude, if you want the short and condensed version, real simple, 1, 2, 3, 4, you want to get to 7 figures fast, but you don't really care how you get there and you want to blow your life up, call an email, making offers to the same niche over and over and over again. When you get to 10K plus, move to ads, run, I don't know, 1,500 to 5K in ads, take calls, hire freelancers, do comms, and sign deals. You're going to have a lot of churn through here, but as long as you keep the ads running at all times, you'll bring on enough. You'll hit your 100K months, but life will be sucky, painful. We fear, anxiety, stress, health issues. So hopefully I've given you some, and realize I move it over here, health issues, relationship issues. Hopefully I've given you some clarity that this isn't just about a single result. What is the long-term? I hope that I've changed your perspective on what the long-term outcome is that you're looking for and things that you need to be on the lookout for. And again, last time I'll say it, I'm offering free phone calls. I have a few left. Hop on a phone call with me. Let's talk through it. My objective again is not to sell you. If you don't work with me long-term, cool. If you want to, I'll offer it to you if it makes sense. But really the objective is just to make sure that based on where you're at, figuring out what your actual constraints are, what you need to focus on, over 45 to 90 minutes, we can get hyper clear on that. I've done it several times now. And you can walk away with more clarity on what you need to focus on as opposed to feeling like you're doing this and you never quite get over here where you want to go. So hopefully you had fun with me on my board today. This has been an interesting episode. I just want to give you my perspective. I'm going to read through my notes here real quick and see if there's anything else. Kind of from the top, recapping things, right? Your skill set, your knowledge, your confidence, your ability to sell and lead are going to be some of the strongest components that go into the success or lack of success in your ability to succeed here. We talked about the Savage 6 skill sets that these are non-negotiables. If you master these, and the quicker you master these, they'll make you unstoppable at anything you want to do. Sales, seduction, speaking, teaching, coaching, and consulting. There's 4 kind of mental models and different approaches based on what phase you're at. You have freelance mode, operator mode, where you have you plus maybe a contractor or two, architect mode, where you're building a system and a true team, and then owner mode, where you are offering leadership and guidance and direction to the company, but it operates itself. Depending where you are now, you'll need a different focus. If you try to skip these steps, you're going to get stuck. And I've lived through each one of these phases, again, being caveat that I'm somewhat between owner and architect because of my intentionality towards sales. To become a client magnet and to get customers, you want market selection and avatar to be one of your primary focuses. The more time and energy you put into understanding that, who this customer should be, who you want to work with, what they do, what they offer, and understanding that thoroughly is going to give you an advantage in being able to attract them. Building an irresistible offer without falling victim to just offering or you don't pay guarantee style stuff. An irresistible offer that attracts high paying customers who are not in a scarcity mindset, that are operating from abundance. They're ready to pay money. They're ready to pay for the best to get the best. And then slowly, methodically remembering to build social proof and authority signals that can help drive the results of your ads, of your cold outreach, whatever, so that they have something additional to verify you. Ravi Abdallah talks about the, 4-7-11 rule. Google put out a study, how much content people need to have consumed from you to be aware who you are, to trust you. They're not just going to, you're not going to say one series of magic words one time on one ad and they click straight through and they talk to you one time and they buy from you. That is not how that works at all. There might be like fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent that someone does that. The likelihood is pretty low. Most of the time, they're going to see you multiple times. They're going to have heard you speak multiple times. They're going to look you up. They're going to look your company up. They're going to look for results. Something that I didn't go over, but I want to make sure is clear, is not wasting time working on things that don't fucking matter. If I'm starting from 0 to 10K, I'm not worried about my logo. I'm not worried about my name. I'm not wasting time on building the website. The primary thing I need is conversations with people and a skill set that I can monetize. So I know I didn't cover that in the whiteboard, but I think that was important. That was part of my notes here. Assets that matter, offer, testimonials, delivery of the process, actually being able to get the results. And something also that we didn't talk about, what I think is important, is if you aren't confident in your ability to get the results, it's going to impede your ability to sell it. I would highly recommend that one of the safest, highest leveraged ways to go get confidence is to just go do it. Go work for a company like mine or somebody else's and build your skill set. If you're trying to sell SEO and you know you're going to put it on your own and you're not just going to immediately hire somebody that's going to do it for you, go get familiar with what it takes. Work inside of a company that does it at the highest level. Get familiar with what their processes are. Understand what their systems look like. Understand what their salespeople are doing. Maybe get into a position where you can do both operations and sales, work at different levels of that. Because again, what you're up against that I'm not up against is knowing what the desired outcome is, having seen it, felt it, experienced it. You can watch a video on how it works 100 times, but until you put in the reps, you're not going to have the confidence behind it. It's going to limit your ability. And you can get in this loop where you're like, it doesn't work. It absolutely does work. But if you're not confident, they're going to experience that whenever you're trying to sell it. And you're not going to be able to sell it. You're going to be like, this doesn't work. Absolutely does work. The difference is in the delivery, and the delivery through confidence makes all the difference. There's a video floating out there somewhere. I talked about how I overcome my lack of experience with sales and how, as a traditionally more introverted person, I overcame that. And confidence is everything. And finding your own natural cadence and ability to sell is hyper important. Trying to just mimic and clone what somebody else is saying. We can say the same words and I can execute it differently than you do and get a different outcome than you do. And so just being aware of that, building up client case studies. And again, we just covered sales with confidence. What else? I noted in here, again, leveraging someone like myself. It doesn't have to be me, but like myself, who's been where you want to go, who's willing to sit down with you and talk through. You can end up borrowing their beliefs. You can borrow off of their understanding of the reps. They can hold you accountable to staying the course. We talked through, like, you start to wander off the path and they bump you back in. That's important to getting you to that freedom faster. It's not that you can't do it yourself. I did too much of it myself. I had an ego about myself. I didn't want to yield to that. Also, I got burned by so many gurus giving me so much shit information that I vowed to myself never to buy anything ever put out again and just figure it out myself. It worked, but it took me a long time to do it. I don't necessarily want that for you. What I want you to do is be able to think through enough of these important components. I'm putting out information and content that's trying to help you promote the idea of it's probably not going to be fast, easy, and passive, but it can be fulfilling and profitable and have some amazing people. And if you can get clear on identifying the bullshit and stop giving into your lizard brain that's saying, go towards the easy path, and you're willing to go towards the path that's slightly harder and lean into the things that you don't want to, but you know are actually correct, you're going to get there faster. And if you can work with someone that's been there, that you do trust, has that experience, you get there exponentially faster. So that was the notes I had, and I hope this has been a valuable experience for you. Again, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you want my help, there'll be a link in the description to book the call. Happy to sit down and talk to you. If not, I still wish you the best, and I hope that your journey goes smoother than mine. That's all I have for you today. I'll catch you in the next episode.